changing the world. You can't just buy your way into that. You're going to say no. Hell no, these kids, they shouldn't be denied food, shelter, education because they're kids. But you just answered that question and with two opposite responses. So now the poll says 90% of Americans, or let's just say 70% of Americans, think illegal immigrants do not deserve what we have. Now, when they ask you about the children, of course, you're going to say, now, how many out of 10 of you would say, of course, the kids should have shelter, food, education, a healthy life? You're never going to say that. So then the news reports that 80% of Americans say, yeah, let's take care of these immigrants. Depending on how you ask the question, generates the desired result. This is a PSY-OPS. This is NSA and CIA. This is mentality. These are well read and very meticulously educated people who know how to generate the response. Salesman 101. Learn how to read your customer. Now, all you're getting from your customer when you ask those questions is data. But where does that data go? That data of what the people want. That's what makes your news. In fact, I've read that 96% of all statistics are incorrect. Thank you very much. But again, it would only be the coldest of people who would say, like I said, these kids just do not deserve food, shelter, education. So the poll would represent exactly the way they asked the question. They determined your answer. Now that data goes on to make the news, and that news helps form your opinion, and then it forms the opinions of people around you because you have this innate and sometimes completely disgusting desire to blend in, to stick with the Joneses, to be equal in your education, your mentality. You don't want to rock the boat. You go with the flow because this is what you are trained to do. You're programmed. Think about it. Every time we went to war, well, when did we not? Good question. Why do we keep going at war? I mean, does the government just say, well, they throw a dart and they say, well, let's go to war with them? Of course not. No, they have oil, they have resources, they have this, they have that. Or my favorite, they have the ability to project what that country is going to be in a year, 2 years, 200 years. That country becomes an ally. And this government is working towards a future of which we can barely conceive. We get glimpses. George Orwell gave us glimpses. Shut down your free thinking. You're not allowed to think. Hell, you're supposed to be able to impeach your own president. Other countries are supposed to go and say, oh, well, George W., you're guilty of war crimes. When you come here, we, the citizens, can arrest you. CIA never lets you close enough to place an individual under arrest. Was Hitler arrested? No, he, quote, committed suicide. Yeah. How about all those scientists? You know, the ones that were building all those weapons? Where did they go? Where did NASA come from? Wernher von Braun is one of the most inspirational people I've ever read of. Because he's considered, although Robert H. Goddard is considered the father of American rocketry, von Braun. Well, go look it up. Go research. Check out a great movie called October Sky. But you know, von Braun actually said something else. He said, when the government tells you we are under attack by aliens, don't believe it. But see, as long as we're at war, as long as this country is bombing some innocent family, destroying lives, we do two things. We are able to rob them of the resources, and we perpetuate the enemy. There always has to be an enemy. There always has to be an enemy. Well, so you know what? I'm actually going to get back to that one. I'm going to get back to that one. But if the owners, and I will get back, I promise. If the owners of your news companies decide that that somehow there will be more money or any money to be made by having illegal immigrants, they will sway your opinion by letting you know what your quote peers think. Here, you again choose to fit in. You don't want to rock the boat. They, in effect, will cash in on the mere psychological stance that most of you agree blindly with what others think. And not just others. The only interviews you will ever see are those that represent the will of those who control the media. The people that represent the majority of the population, or so they will have you think. And then your opinions are formed by what those people say. You ever notice that this is another great example. There's a Dairy Queen commercial. And this guy is sitting there, this goofy looking guy. And he says goodbye to boring breakfast and hello to biscuits and gravy. So, it's a very annoying commercial. Here's why. This guy sits there in a flannel shirt with whatever the hell makeup is on his face. I don't know what they call it. But they make him look like everyday Joe. He's got this makeup on his face that shows stubble. And it's clearly he's not the people who go to Dairy Queen. He is not the general population. He's an actor. And he's made up to look like hi, I'm going to Dairy Queen. Why doesn't America have that accent everywhere? Isn't that just romantic? That's an awesome accent. You can get from Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, maybe even Virginia. Gotta ask my friend Megan about that. But the same could be said for some of these leading companies that you see online. They manipulate you by they use maybe the children of the company owners, maybe the nephew, maybe or at least the commercial producers, where they have these kids who pretend very badly, I might add, to be the everyday run-of-the-mill broke-ass people like us, and they get suddenly saved because some company saved their asses from the IRS or some bill collector. They sell you an image, and then you get on there and you call the tax doctor. Or you call whatever cheesy crap. A little cartoon. I got my tax advice from a cartoon this year. This is what sells. Stupidity. And who keeps buying it? Why are there private companies designed to help you deal and negotiate with a federal department? Who owns these companies? This is where the research needs to get deeper. Who is sponsoring the companies to help you negotiate? How is it that there is not documentation that you can go to the library or your tap on your interweb and find the same damn negotiation power with the IRS, and then you pay these companies or they take a dividend apart? I seen a guy, I owed $70,000 and they cut my payment down to $1,200. Why? What do they know that you cannot do? If you educate yourself, learn to read, learn to interpret, we have a responsibility to protect ourselves. We do not need to keep paying everyone else. They advise you to never represent yourself in court. I agree. It's probably not a smart idea, especially if you're going up for a murder charge. But you know what? I would, because I was a law student there for a bit. I did start to go into law. You know what happened? I had a conscience. I had an issue with living off the backs of innocent and or guilty people. No one wants to represent. No one who has scruples, has any bit a bit of integrity at all wants to represent a guilty client and then get paid to represent someone you know is guilty. No one in their right mind should be that low. One day I'm going to explain why this music keeps popping up. It's a beautiful app, and you have to train yourself. But one day I'll explain that. That's why it keeps popping up, and it's very important that it's there. But let's take it a step further, than these companies that you need to pay to save your ass from the IRS. Take it a step further. Consider the bullshit TV shows like, and I'm sorry if this offends anyone, Mike and Molly, or Two Broke Girls. Can't stand either of them. And here's why. All these shows are doing is selling you the idea that overweight, poorly motivated people is the ideal life. Now, Melissa McCarthy, I love that girl. She is freaking brilliant. I do believe she has become very limited by a show such as Mike and Molly. But here's what they're selling you. You can be dysfunctional. That's okay. You can go and make sex jokes every 10 damn minutes. And that's okay. You can be rude and crude and not have to be socially responsible for anything. But that's not the world. That's not the world. Because this world is going to hold you to standards. Some are high, some are low. But when you educate yourself and you bring yourself to being the you that you know you can be, then you will hold the world to standards, most of which it will never meet. But that's why, if you go back and look, now I think Roseanne was a great show. But if you look at the algorithm of what Roseanne is, it educates us on how to be. Even though we have everyday life, everybody's family is the worst according to someone in that family. And you can tell people you will never understand. But we do. We are all bound by the same dysfunction and function as you. Because I can tell you, I have no problem telling you, as a child, I was molested. I was also beaten. I have no problem. In fact, the more I do discuss it, the more I bridge a gap to other people to finally come out and say, you know what, that happened to me too. And this is why I'm the way I am, because I've given that past the power that it has to control my every damn move. And here's the thing, this is the secret. You are more powerful than that past. You are more powerful than what it has over you and on you. And there are people who are going to keep reminding you of your past because they want to keep you in this little box. Every time my dad is one of the best. Anytime he sees me happy, anytime he sees that I'm confident, he shoots it down. He steals from me a moment of happiness by reminding me that no matter what I achieve, I wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for something he did. But yes, while it may be true, that's not the point. Some of it, but definitely and barely any of it. But he does it in a very malicious way. 2015, I received an award for a photography competition for I used a $50 pawn shop camera my wife gave me. And I went up against some major photographers and I won $2,500. Now, later I had to fight the SSI office because, of course, they wanted that money back. That was overpayment, which they wound up actually doing anyway. But here's Dad within the 10 minutes of the phone call of saying, you won $2,500. Now, again, I went up with this pawn shop camera that had been 6 years out of date. And I went up against these major photographers with, I